Okay. Hi, everybody. So we are going to get started. As much as I would love to keep talking about the campus, I could talk about it all day. But we are going to get started. Kevin's laughing because he knows. So good evening, everybody. My name is Elise Dulai. I am the Vice President of Administration for the Associated Students of Glendale Community College. And with me tonight is our Senator, Leah Shervanian, who is a Senator of Administration. We are so excited to bring you the first ever Learning and Professional Pathways workshop series in collaboration with Guided Pathways. Tonight, we are joined by some amazing GCC faculty members, but before we begin, I have a few announcements about each of them. So first of all, we have interpretation and closed captioning services available tonight for our deaf or hard of hearing students. You have the option of pinning the interpreters Jo Beth and Virginia by clicking on the 3 dots on the box where their faces are and selecting pin video. We also have our captioner tonight who will be doing closed captioning. So to turn it on, you can click the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen. This meeting will also be recorded. However, we will only be recording the speakers and not everybody else in the audience. So we will also be sending out a student survey at the end of the meeting. If you are here for extra credit, please fill that out since that is how we will report your attendance to your professors. But if you're not here for extra credit, we would still love to hear your feedback. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Leah for a couple more announcements.
Thank you, Elise. This event is split into 2 parts. The first part will be presentation by our amazing counselors, Kevin Meza and Isaac Pedroza, about the new Learning and Professional Pathways, or LPPs. The second part will be Q&A by our amazing faculty panelist, Mark Dini. We have a few pre-prepared questions, but if you have any specific questions throughout this event, please send them to Elise in the chat. Without further ado, I'll be turning it over to Kevin to get the evening started.
Great, thank you, everybody. Thanks for creating this event, ASGCC, and I hope today we're going to enhance our students' opportunities and exposure to their options in life. My name is Kevin. Again, I've been a counselor here for a long time, 20 years. This has been 20 years for me, and also, Isaac is going to co-present with me. And Isaac was a former student here at Glendale. He's a military veteran. Veterans Day was the other day, so I want to thank him for his service for the country. And Isaac's a success story from our campus. He transferred from Glendale College to UC Davis, and hopefully he shares a little bit of a story of maybe a little service and kind of how we developed from our college. At our community college, we want to create opportunities for students and to figure out what your role in, if we're going to go bigger, the society, the universe, and kind of what your skills, talents, how we want to make sure you identify your skills and talents, build that, and make sure that you get the best opportunities in life that you can. So what I'm going to do is to share my screen. We have a official presentation for you. And I think we'll show you some stats and hopefully some role modeling, some motivation. I grew up low income, first generation college student, and community college really opened my opportunities in life. And I hope that I'm able to provide that for you the way my professors and counselors did for me. Today we're going to learn about a major career based off your interests and strengths. We just don't want to get you a job. We want to make sure it's something that you are naturally talented and happy about. Whatever your soul expresses, hopefully you'll find that match of a career that you will express yourself through your hands, through your intellect, through your writing, through your creativity, all those things. We're going to talk about learning and professional pathways that help create a better pathway or a clearer pathway to make sure that you align your interests and skills. And you're also going to learn directly from professors in these fields to make sure you turn your interests into skills. And that's the thing. Hopefully, when you really love what you do, you don't work anymore. You just enhance and you're rewarded every day for what you love to do. And that's a big thing. I was influenced by some educators when I was in an undergraduate, when I was in community college and college. One of the ideas I learned when I was in college was soar with your strengths and manage your weaknesses. What that means is, like, we all have natural talents and gifts, and we have to enhance that. And by taking classes in skill development, it's a joy. When you fight against that and like push yourself, You can do other things, but it's not a natural fit necessarily. So hopefully we'll find that piece for you. Every job has a perk. Every job has this thing that is an extra value for you. For me in education, being an educator, I get summers off. And I really take advantage of that. I love to travel. My grandmother worked in the fields. She was a field worker, picked fruits, and then she worked in a factory. But when she retired, she was able to save enough money to travel a little bit. And so I got that travel bug. And traveling, I can see ancient civilizations and the world replicates itself. And I would see every civilization, and you can see the slide, every civilization has artists, writers, politicians, agricultural workers, builders, people who create things with their hands, textiles, people who create clothes, people who build things and create things. And my dad would love to create stuff. He worked in a factory, he worked with his hands, and he created these amazing things, and that was his happiness. So it's like finding that right fit. What are you naturally inclined to do? That's what we're about, right? You experiment, you take different classes at our community college, you take some art classes, you take some drawing classes, you take welding, you take philosophy classes, you experiment a little bit, but what do you find your most joy in? And how are you going to help society? What is your role in society? And hopefully you find that right fit, and hopefully as educators we match that with you. The Guided Pathways movement, which I'm a part of, is to make sure that you align your natural talents and interests with job opportunities to create a life that you are happy with in your future family or family now, right? So it's about identify your interests and talents, then keep developing skills that enhance you. That's really important. You already kind of have an idea, some of you, about what your natural abilities and skills are. Let's enhance that. Now, the further you go in education, the more training you have, the higher income that you create. So on average, this is people ages 25 years or older, the average salary. California is going to be a little higher. This is national, but each state has a different salary range. But for California, a high school graduate earns about $48,000 a year. And someone with an associate's degree earns $56,000 a year. So that's a pretty good cost difference. Every year for the rest of your life, you make a certain amount more. A bachelor's degree even further, a master's degree, the further you go, the more money you make. But it's not so much about, for me, having a factory worker background, it wasn't about being wealthy necessarily, it was about financial stability. Money comes over time. So financial stability was my thing. And luckily, I started to enhance my skills development, and then the resources started to come my way. But think about skill development. The more skills you have, the more education you have, the harder it is to replace you. So employers are more likely to work with you and not let you go. Like they want to put environments, they want to put resource rate on the left-hand side, this purple slide on the left, you see the unemployment rate with below high school education, it's a lot, because people can, unfortunately, it's not about people's souls, but they can replace the investment of labor. They can find someone else. So find a skill set where you're not replaceable. And again, they're going to give you more autonomy, more work flexibility, and they're going to value more in the job market. Now, the question is, will I make money in my major or LPP? Your LPP is a learning professional pathway. That's what we're creating over here. A learning professional pathway, I'll explain a little more in a minute. But the idea is that, again, interests and skills in a certain range that are most developed. Now, certain majors such as engineering, computer science, things like that make more money right out of college. But over time, no matter what major you have, if you do well, if it's a natural fit with your skills and abilities and talents, you're going to make more money than an engineer or computer science major because you excel. As an educator I worked in community colleges. I've been around it since 1991. So as an educator, someone who helps students, what I always say is talent always rises. Talent rises and skills rise. So the research shows that talented people who make good decisions, helps other things, generally make more money than other majors. So your major isn't as important as what you do with your talents and skills, decisions that you make. And that's why we try to match it up with career choices. This whole guided pathways movement, which we're about, LPPs, is to combine. We don't want to just have you take classes and leave you alone. We want to make sure you take classes, enhance that with your interviewing skills, enhance that with your decision making, and coming together to make sure that you create the life that you would like. Now, in the job market, there's certain skills that employers are looking for. This is a sketch, problem solving skills, but the big thing is, I think, ability to work in a team, strong work ethic, right? People want to work with people that they like, people who are easy to work with, solving problems together. That's something that you can learn by joining clubs, organizations, being involved on campus. Work out what is how to manage other people's personality types, but also yours. Yes, it's easy to see what's hard to work with other students. Yeah, they're annoying and yes, we get that. Understand how to work with that emotionally, but what is your thing? What is it about you that may be easy to work with or hard to work with? Get feedback right now, early on, and then you can develop that. But you can see detail-oriented technical leadership skills, analytical skills, all these things, and no matter what field you pick, are rewarded out there. Again, people want someone who's contribute to the workplace, have technical skills, and easy to work with. And that's something that sometimes takes from practice, right? Engaging. Now, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to hand this over to Isaac in a second. Isaac has a really good career background, technical background. But to start the conversation is about a starting point. There's something called the Holland codes and multiple intelligence theory, but Isaac's going to talk about Holland codes and how do we, all these things don't necessarily mean you're going to be this specifically, but it points you in a direction. What are your talents and skills to point you in an area that you're going to enjoy what you do and develop your skills? So I'll hand it over to Isaac.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Welcome, everyone. And like Kevin mentioned, just a little bit of background about myself. I'm currently a counselor at Glendale Community College in the career technical education. Now it's career education and workforce development. And one of the neat things from my experience, education for me was definitely something that I struggled, especially in high school. I had no real direction of what I wanted to do. So, one of the options that I found was the military. I wanted to kind of have a job that had different, that made me do different things each day. It was a new environment. And having been exposed to that, having learned that knowledge while not in a classroom, it was more of a hands-on experience. It allowed me to really start identifying some of the strengths that I had, and this led me to ultimately coming back to Glendale Community College and studying and finding a passion in helping other students who were in the same boat as I was to really figure out, what was my strength, and so in looking at the Holland codes, it's a set of six basic types it's six personality types, and that allows us to start a conversation on figuring out what we are able to really have a strength in. And specifically in this area tonight, the LPP that we're discussing, for the industrial technology and aviation, the three main types of traits is realistic, investigative, and conventional. So let's take a moment and just and read for those three areas to really see what really allows the students to grow. So in the first one, realistic is generally they like to work with things more than with people. They are often described as genuine, sensible, practical, natural, thrifty, modest, and persistent and honest. Investigative is the types typically like to work with ideas more than with people or things. They are usually described as logical, curious, exact, intellectual, cautious, independent, quiet, and modest. And finally, conventional. Conventional types generally like to work with papers, numbers. They are typically described as practical, careful, thrifty, efficient, orderly, and persistent. And like Kevin mentioned, you know, these are meant to to begin that conversation, to help understand the students, the different path to ultimately land a career. And the good thing about what I found working with our students within the aviation and technology is that the job market for these specific careers are constantly growing. There's always a demand for constant uh, individuals to come into those fields. Some of them that we were able to really identify, that the workforce within these areas are slowly are at the stage where they're starting to retire. So the one of the benefits within these areas is that a lot of these jobs earn above the minimum wage within our region, and so it really allows us to provide a um, a career after obtaining a short training in terms of a certificate that we offer here. So again, these different areas are not necessarily a student's not necessarily uh, sorry. Um, they're not necessarily meant to stay in those areas, but it's to identify the different strengths that they have. Next slide.
Okay, so I'll pick up on multiple intelligence. And well, go back to Isaac was saying, it's about fit. It's about what personality is about, what you enjoy doing, right? That's a really big thing. The Holland codes, and let me go back a little bit. The Holland codes, there's something called the career coach, and you can take that for free as a Glendale student. Here's a link, but you can also look at our Career Center page to take this assessment. You can read these multiple boxes to kind of get a self-assessment, but if you take the test, it'll give you a assessment. It'll give you a better idea about maybe where you're headed. Again, nothing's 100%, but it guides a conversation. Along those lines, multiple intelligence is guiding the conversation. In psychology research, there's debate about intelligence, but I will say that a lot of us understand maybe our natural ability, something that you're drawn to. And I'm always transparent with the students I work with, you know, and then our student leaders, Elise has heard all my strengths and weaknesses. I know I love music, but I have no musical talent. I know that I love people dancing, but I have no body smart. If there's like, I think I have a look, I am Latino, so I do have a little rhythm, but I can't remember moves. I don't have body intelligence, right? But I have some other areas in there that I'm like, I've been developing for years, not really thinking about it, right? Some of us have interpersonal skills. Some of us work better with our bodies, have talents with our hands and creative things. I remember years ago, this one student, I told them like, oh, take an easy class, take ceramics, just get some units. This is 20 years ago. And that was the hardest class he had because he wasn't good with his hands. Like ceramics and things with your hands, there's very technical things that, you know, some people aren't naturally gifted at, right? So, but it's all about experimentation. I don't have musical skills. I took piano, kind of a challenge for me, right? So what I ask all students is kind of a challenge yourself a little bit, but over time you see what your natural strengths are. Now you can do all of these. You could be visually, you could work hard to work on that stuff. You can work with your hands, you can work with music. But some things are more of a natural fit. So it's all about experimentation and growing those things. here are some ideas. Some people are really good with words. Some people are good at visualizing things. Some people are good with their bodies. Again, that goes into sports or music or working with their hands, creativity. Some people are good with music, working with people. Some people, it's called naturalists. Like I go outside, I see a tree. I don't see the type of tree. Other people are able to identify the type of tree, the type of bush, the type of flower. Some people have the natural things, whether they knew it or not, they were building it their whole lives, right? So at the college, you want to enhance those things you've been building, at the same time experiment a little bit, but you kind of know what group you're in as you identify your strengths. Again, when you work with Career Center counselors, when you work with Isaac and other counselors, we can help you figure out what is it the natural flow that you're connected with to build those talents. Now, this is about learning professional pathways, which is a new idea with the college. And it's a guided approach. Before we would say, pick a major. What are you interested in? So it's almost like we threw a bunch of marbles at you and say, pick a marble. There's actually 1,200 majors that you can choose from. So this learning professional pathways is about putting you in different paths for you to kind of experiment a little bit. So the idea is that learning professional pathway group majors by common subjects, careers, coursework. We have 8 LPPs to select a pathway towards a degree or certificate, because we want to make sure that you have an official degree or certificate when you leave. And I think when students say, I don't know what I would major in, I'm like, yeah, you do. I'm like, do you want to major in this? You're like, no, I don't. So sometimes we can eliminate things. And then we start to go towards your strengths and weaknesses. So this is some of our LPPs at Glendale College. We have visual performing arts. We have health and public, industrial technology and aviation, business, all these different areas. Personal exploration is about developing, you're not quite sure of your major, of what you're going to do. So we want you to group things together rather than saying, here's 1,200 choices. What are you going to do? What we do with this whole program is group you into certain areas. And then Isaac, you want to talk about the Holland Code again for this particular one?
Yes. So like I mentioned, for the industrial technology and aviation, it's realistic, investigative, and conventional. Now, in one of the things I've experienced in working with students within this area is that they have it's a very diverse in terms of background, in terms of education experience. We do have a lot of students like myself that are what we considered reentry students who have gone out, gotten some experience, and have realized maybe they're changing their career or decide that they need additional training to move up in their job. And so being able to understand that their needs might be a little different compared to your traditional student who's still exploring. A lot of our students are looking to really have a career that leads to a job in the next 2 to 5 years at most.
And I also want to say, I am talking really fast for the interpreters, so I'm going to try to slow it down a little bit. We're almost done with the thing, so sorry about that. But again, I just don't worry so much about these categories so much. That's really not important for today. I want you all to think about what is it that you think you're naturally good at, because I think you all have a good sense of what is an easier fit for you. What comes naturally to you? Again, my training in my experiences just really push your natural talents and abilities. Again, the quote I put earlier, soar with your strengths. And if you enjoy what you're doing, then your job is a part of you and you're happy to go to work, right? My thing, again, my dad was a factory worker. My grandmother, my parents were factory workers and fruit pickers, and they got to a certain point where they wanted me to express myself and be who I was. And everyone has a path, And whether it's construction with your hands, whether it's your artistic ability, which is the whole thing. If you study sociology, there's this whole idea about we like to make things. Human beings generally like to create. It's like it's called a homo faber. It's through sociology. It's about Marxist, I think. It's about creating things with our hands. And it's this beautiful thing about we've been around for hundreds of thousands of years as humans, and like there's something about creativity. So we want to make sure that we explore that as an individual. Now for smarts, quote unquote, for this area, it's about visual ability, body kinesthetic, right? Working with your body and hands and creating. And that's a big thing to explore in this realm. And as we have our professors going to talk to us a little bit, they can correct me. As a counselor, I can talk about my lived experience, what I've read about these areas, from my father, from my family, but it could be different, right? Different generations. I'm getting wisdom from 20, 30, 40 years ago, which might be different than now. And that's why today is about talking to professors. So Isaac, do you want to read this for everybody? Are you a good reader? I kind of like.
Yes. No, I'm going to slow it down. I know that I tend to speak rather quickly as well. So for industrial technology and aviation, are you interested in designing and building residential and commercial properties or technological devices that will help increase productivity? Have you ever dreamed of learning to fly a plane or work for the airline industry? The industrial technology and transportation pathway is for students who want to use state-of-the-art technology to apply the principles of science and engineering to real-world problems. GCC students in this pathway may directly enter the workforce or continue their education to earn an advanced degrees. Now, two things I do want to point in this area is that technology has created such advancement in these areas that it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing. And another thing to know is that whether we know it or not, we are always exposed to these areas on a daily basis. I mean, just if you ever get a chance to drive downtown, you've seen the growth of the construction that's been going. And so we've become a major hub in the last couple of years for these industries. Another thing to know is, the Olympics are coming in the next couple of years. And so in terms of our airline industry, our aerospace, it's some of the largest ones in the area. So it is always growing. We are in a location where these jobs are in constant need, and therefore the need for skilled workers to fill these jobs.
And Isaac and I think we keep talking because we're social, but I will say that we want to present to you all enough time. You are the doers. This is LPP with the doers. You create and change society in building and in flying and in advancement in technology and workplace development. So Isaac and I are going to be quiet for a little while. We're going to hand it over to.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I, for one, learned a lot about the Holland codes, and even though I've heard it multiple times, that was a great presentation as always, Kevin and Isaac. So now on to our Q&A portion of the event. If you have any questions, please send them to me in the chat. You can either private message me or just send them in the chat and I will see them and we will try to get to them. We are honored tonight to be joined by some amazing faculty members. I will be turning it over to them to introduce themselves, starting with Professor Dini. Oh, he is. Professor Dini, I think you're muted. Sorry.
I will.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Mark Dini. I am the welding instructor and division chair at Glendale College. I've been part-time for 17 years and now 3 years full-time. I come to you as a broad view of welding and fabrication. I worked for Honeywell as a technician for 30 years. I have worked in research and development, worked with design engineers for SpaceX, space station, military, commercial, and missiles. And so I've delivered a lot of experience. I'm also a contractor. So I give a lot of experience to the students and let them kind of understand that we're there to support them, and they're guiding them as an instructor, educator, and a coach. So my idea is to, help them help themselves and give them some fundamentals and let them grow. And then I kind of we work together to build a project or a process for success for them. So it's each student is an individual one for me, and I want to make sure they're successful in everything they do. So that's my overall picture, and I've been very successful. I can validate that we've had, I'm up to 350 certified American Welding Society, which gets them pretty much a guaranteed salary of $20 to $40 an hour. So depending on where they go. And I have students that are in JPL, SpaceX, and SSP products in Burbank and throughout the LA area. And matter of fact, a couple of students actually worked on the Rams Stadium and that are in the Union too. So they're out there and enjoying a great livelihood. Thank you.
Fantastic. We're so lucky to have somebody like you at our campus to help our students. I'm going to pass it over to George to introduce himself now.
Hi, my name is George Palma. I'm the chair of the manufacturing department. I was part-time at the college for 11 years, and now I'm a full-time instructor. We have a facility there that has over $500,000 worth of manufacturing equipment at the college. Very complicated CNC equipment, and we teach the student on the equipment and the process, and we support them all the way through into looking for an employment for them. So we're there 100% for them, so that once they finish the classes, they know they can have support from us. And not only that, they can come back and continue their education to advance into more advanced classes. I used to work with my father for about 25 years, and we had a rather large company. We did work for Raytheon, Borg Warner, Hydraulic Research, and Bell Helicopter. So we did a lot of aerospace parts. So I have about over 40 years experience in the aerospace industry and manufacturing. And so I know what's out there, and I know what can be done. And there's a lot of opportunities in manufacturing, for students that want to explore it and want to be creative, also, it's a lot of creativity that's involved in that. So, but like I said, we support them 100% from the beginning classes until the end. And then through our night courses, once we get them employed, they can work during the day, and then in the evening come back and take more advanced night courses and advance their career. So.
Thank you so much. I am learning so much just by being here right now. You two are so inspiring. For our next question, a lot of students at the community college level are undecided, and we want to know, how did you both decide on your areas of study, and what school did you go to, and what did your educational path look like?
Who would you like to start with first?
We'll start with you, Mark.
Okay. Actually, I went from high school, local guy, La Crescenta Valley High, and then went to GCC. And that's where I was uncertain. And so I took some general ed classes, and then I took some welding classes because I like to work with my hands. That's the key. And I was very visual. and technical, and everything came very simple for me because I'd like to create stuff, and I worked on cars. So mechanical background is helpful. These are the things that I attribute that help me in my goals and career. And, kind of like Kevin was saying, building my toolbox to be successful. So I went on and got certified in many different processes. That's one of the things in welding. You can get certified in one particular area, but if you diverse your combination of skill sets, the more desirable you are as a hired person. So I went ahead and developed my skill sets with, like George, I went into machining too. I learned about machining background, which I tell my students to see George. And so we partnered together to help each other with our students and their skill sets. And I also, have learned to find out that some of our students like to do ceramics and photography. And, it's not just one set of skills that I found that are very diverse for welding. I've even had people that are in design and architecture that are very interested in welding. I've had moms that want to come back and want to to build furniture in their garden and in their patio. So it's a very diverse group that I've had. I get them from high school all the way up to retirement, and and a lot of them that want to retool around their 30s, and they realize that they're not set to be behind a desk, and they want to work with their hands. So these are the ones that come out and visit me and find a new development and career, and they really appreciate their new path, and they realize how beneficial it is in this new essential environment, because we are part of that team that are, most of my people are out there working already. They're continually working during this pandemic, and their skill sets are very valuable, and some of them are to the point where they can be a free agent, where they're going out and getting paid extra because of their skills background. So with that, I hope I answered most of your questions and answering that.
Yes, you definitely did. What about you, George? What was your educational path?
Well, right out of high school, then I finished high school and I started at Glendale Community College. Stopped going for a while because I was working with my father in his shop. Did that for 25 years. But in the meantime, when Glendale started doing night classes, I started coming back so I could finish, and I got my AS degree and finished up. And but all the skills and all the knowledge that I learned over the 25 years, not only in his shop, but I had an internship in another gentleman's shop learning CNC equipment and high-tech equipment that really helped me. One guy told me, he said, it doesn't matter if you're going to go on to engineering or something bigger, everything you learn, you're going to use. So, and I believe that on the path to what your final destination is, or what you want to really do, you're going to use everything. So that's why I encourage, a lot of students that want to go into design engineering, mechanical engineering, or even welding for design, for manufacturing and fabrication. Hey, the more you know, the more you're going to be wanted as a person to do work, and you're going to be a valuable asset anywhere, and you can use that to your benefit, and then that will help you in the future to increase your salary, And so, but there are, like I said, there are a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of stuff that you can do within the manufacturing and the welding that will increase your bottom line as far as salary goes, and your skills. And like I said, it's once it gets to a point where you're having fun, it doesn't feel like a job anymore. So
I just want to add to something. Some my experience growing up, like everyone contributes to our society, to our country. My dad worked for Alcoa Aluminum, which helped the country need aluminum at the time. My uncle worked for Lockheed in Burbank, so building aircrafts, and he was on the line crafting. So we all have our piece in society. I think in these fields, a lot of times it's about apprenticeships and unions, and maybe you can talk about that in a little bit as we go through this. But that's my life I lived, and we had a really good, stable environment for me to thrive, thanks to my parents and their brothers and sisters' kind of involvement in hands-on labor and contributing to society in their way. My dad was a military veteran, as Isaac is. So just like we all kind of contribute to this whole thing. You find your place of happiness. Like as George was saying, everyone was saying, like if you find your happiness, how you contribute, you're in a good place.
Thank you. To begin with, George, for this question, what skills would you expect an individual in your field to develop by the time that they graduate?
So by the time they graduate, depending on which program, usually if they're going to take the CNC program, they should be able to set up a CNC lathe or a milling machine and be able to program the machine also. So they can get to that level. And then we have a more advanced level of 5-axis machining, where that's very involved. And if they get to that level, they can work for larger companies like SpaceX or Lockheed, and they will enjoy a very good salary. But the skill set involved in that, you have to really apply yourselves and understand how to program the machine. And so we're going to be offering classes that incorporate basically being in the machine shop or a machine shop environment for 16 weeks, so they can go through that whole setup process and programming process and understand what it's going to take to get to that level. So they'll learn all those skills. So
thank you so much, Mark. I don't know if you had anything to add to that about the skills that a student in your course would learn.
Well, it's usually a 2-year program because there's so many different processes that we start with the fundamentals of oxyacetylene, then we move on to MIG welding, arc welding, and then eventually TIG welding. I know those are kind of foreign words to you, but these are just abbreviations for different welding processes, and to be able to skillfully manage these at a, let's say, at a level of experience that you are fundamentally good at. And then what I'm hoping is that, like George, after 2 years through our program, they're going to enter into the workforce and then come back on evenings to get certified. Some students, I would say, on average, I'd get maybe about the top 20% can get certified in a year and a half, which is, that's pushing, and they have to be drivers. So that's realistic. So the other, usually around 2 years, I can get most of them certified if they are motivated. Now, if they, let's just say, go through the whole program, then they come back, and at night we have a certificate or certified program, they can come back.
Thank you so much. So to shift gears a little bit and talk more specifically, I guess, about the tools that you use in your classes, what tools does GCC have at our facility, I guess, on campus for students to use? And this is a question for anybody.
Well, I know George has a beautiful facility with lots, like he said, millions of investment there with Haas machines. So we are catching up to him. They're building me a new facility with lots of new Miller welding machines. So we are going to be quite the welding facility for Southern California. We're going to put Glendale College on the map. So it's going to be a lot of new equipment. It's going to be much bigger, grand. I mean, we're taking over the old fire academy. So they used to park fire trucks in there. So we are really moving up. It's probably 3 times the size of the facility that I was in this last year. So we are very excited about this new area. They're going to learn these new machines. They're going to learn a little bit of CNC programming too. We have that capability, not as advanced as George in machining, but the basics. And so we touch on that. They're going to learn metallurgy. They're going to understand how to why metal burns, fuses, and melts, and what temperature, and different flames, and understanding spray of let's say of the arc, and the development and how things are put together in different positions. Because they say, welders weld things in all positions. Well, that's what we teach. They're flat, vertical, horizontal, and overhead. And sometimes you're on your belly, sometimes you're on your back. Let's say welding exhaust on a car, things of that, where you're out of position. So those are just some basics of some tools. You're going to learn a lot of tools, for as hand tools, clamps, different micrometers, a combination, square, little basics, but yet things that you're going to need to learn in the field. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. I do have to ask though, I kind of want to learn this stuff, but I am 5 feet tall. Would I be able to operate all of this machinery?
Oh yeah, there's no height level in welding. Yeah.
Not like at Disneyland where there's a height limit.
No, for CNC, it's the same. You're at the machine. It's there. You're okay. Doesn't matter. So, well, yeah, we have advanced simulators, so the students can learn on simulators off the machine. So they practice on the simulator to make sure that they get their code right and the machine is working in the right direction, so that when they're on the machine, we teach them how to set up the machine, and the technology on the machine has improved quite a bit, so that it makes it a lot simpler to do that process. And the equipment is very advanced. We have the most advanced equipment that's in there right now. So we have CNC lathes with live tooling and Y-axis and 5-axis machining. So that's the most advanced you can get right now. So, and with all that equipment, like I said, we support it with software, a Mastercam software, which the students can actually download onto their computer at home and practice with it, and also at the college. So, and we use that software to program the machine, and we can see actually the tool cutting and the tool path, and they can understand more of what's going on with it. So we take the complicated and we make it simple.
And at least they have some booster chairs if you need them, so you're going to be okay. Yeah.
And just to give you a little bit of background or resource, I'm in the process of updating my program review. So part of my past program history was lack of women. So I've been able to reach out to the community, and with the word of mouth and social media, our program in the last 2 years have grown. I've got the data to prove 24% of we're getting of women in the classroom. And I have to tip my hat. Most of the women that are in my program are they're keeping the guys on their toes, because they're very, very intuition of staying focused and on point. So I love to have women in my program. They really are excellent and go-getters.
Thank you. This is another general question for both of you. What habits should students develop in order to be successful in your field?
You want to start, George?
Yeah, sure. Well, they need to be good study habits. They need to be on time, and they need to have an interest in the subject matter, and you know, as far as creating mechanical parts and machinery in general. So that's what they need, and then it wouldn't hurt to have a little bit of a background in mathematics, a little bit of geometry, you know, a little bit of maybe trig, but you know, most of the machines take care of the complicated movements and math to generate the parts that we do. And so, but they do need to have software skills, because they do need to work with a program called Mastercam and learn the program so that they can program the part and be able to operate the machinery. So, and like I said, we try to make them feel comfortable around machinery. Some people get nervous around machines.
And for welding, it's pretty easy. As long as they can speak and understand English, we open the door, and then that gets them rolling. But what if they find out that they've got good hand-eye coordination is a plus. They like to be creative. That's a plus. They're visual. They're technical. People that I found from the high school that are involved in robotics do very well in welding. So that's one area that I recruit from. The other is in machinery, like where George is, people that adapt, because we kind of are partnered together. I worked with a machine group at Honeywell in our technical support group. So yeah, it's a great environment for both of us with the skill sets. And you know, they need to eventually need to read weld symbols if they want to get out there to be successful. So that involves blueprint reading. And so that's the technical part. And then you know, being able to take notes, because a lot of the equipment and machinery is repetitive. But if they don't have like a memory of like a computer chip, then they need to take these notes. So, you know, just simple things like that of taking notes and understanding, and so that I'm not behind them coaching them every time. They need to be independent too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next question is more about careers. So a lot of students are going into college and going into these programs to further their careers in the industrial technology and aviation fields. How can students make themselves more marketable to employers and get a job after graduation? I will pass this one to Mark, maybe to start us off. And then I know Isaac has some advice about this, I'm assuming.
No, right now, I think it was Kevin that, or was it Isaac that mentioned about the Olympics coming? That is like a perfect entry for a whirlwind of welders that are going to be needed for the next 5 to 8 years of this buildup of the Olympics. So they are going to be free agents. There's going to be such a demand for welders. It's going to be epic. So the time is perfect for anybody to get in there and start and get their fundamentals. It's going to take a couple years, but man, you're going to learn a lot, and you're also going to benefit. And then, like I said before, you're going to come back and build your toolbox of skills to get better at these other processes, so that you can make your career more valuable, and obviously your paycheck too. So that is, you know, I can guarantee just about anybody that finishes our program, I've got businesses sending me emails, requests for welders. So it's pretty much guaranteed. If you are a good person, like George saying, show up on time, be efficient, I've got a job waiting for you after 2 years. Thank you.
As far as manufacturing goes, well, there's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring. So this is leaving a big gap here, and we have to fill that gap. And so there's going to be a lot of jobs for manufacturing here. And when they go through our program, you know, we're issuing, we're working on certificates now to get them certificates. So when they graduate from either the manufacturing with the lathe or the mill side, they're going to get a certificate, and that certificate's going to mean something. They'll be able to secure a job, because we're going to work closely with a lot of these companies to find out exactly what they need when the student graduates. And we can, the last kind of year that the student's taking the classes, we can taper it a little bit to meet those requirements. And so that what'll happen is they'll be able to get that job. And then from there, they can move forward. You know, they can get the experience. And then from there, they can see, well, now I have more experience. I can work for a larger company, or they can, you know, go ahead and try to get clearances, like maybe secret clearances for Lockheed or SpaceX, and work on special projects. And that's where, you know, you're going to see a lot of money when you get into those types of situations. But you know, and also, you know, there's a lot of network for manufacturing. Somebody's, oh, I got something to do over here or something over there, and there's a lot of work. So the more skills you can do, you will be employed. You will never be unemployed. So you know, the more that they do, and the further up in the manufacturing that they get, as far as understanding the machines and be able to prepare different machines and integrate it, they can move up the higher, you know, up to management positions in manufacturing. And so you can manage a whole big shop, and then, you know, that's where you can make some good money too. So there's a lot of opportunities. And like I said, there's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and so they're leaving a big gap there. So we have to train the new generation to be able to fill that. So, you know.
And I do want to add a bit of information, because I think it's very important, and I think both Mark and George mentioned it, is we are constantly making sure that our facilities are up to standard, up to what a student is gonna, to be able, for a student to be able to learn these skills, to be not just marketable but very competitive once they go into the job market. Not only are there jobs available, but there's also the salary that comes with it. You know, these programs are meant to get the student an entry level position, for them to gain that experience in that field, and to come back and to continue to train and make themselves more marketable. So I think as far as the community college, it's just a great opportunity for them to be able to gain these skills at a fraction of the cost. And so I think that's very important. And a lot of companies, you know, having worked with Mark and George in the departments, you know, they are constantly seeking these skilled workers, and they're willing to pay for them to continue with their training. And so that's definitely a benefit for a student that's looking to move up and to make a decent salary.
So I want to add a little bit something to that you hit it right on the head. And a lot of these companies today, they don't have the time or resources to do on-the-job training. So that leaves it up to us. So that's why we usually have an extra class, sort of like an internship class, or a very intense practice class that'll give them those skills, so that when they get in there, I guess the company can, you know, within a week or two already can fit them to the job, and they're already doing what they need to be doing. So right away, instead of, you know, where the company has to train them and go through this whole ordeal. So, and they don't do that anymore. You know, so that's where the responsibility lies on us.
Oh, thank you so much. Before we move on to our final question of the night, I have a question that we've been asking at all of our workshops. how do you stay motivated, and what advice do you have for people to stay motivated in this pandemic and the situation that we're in right now? Starting with George.
I get motivated with new technology. I love new technology, and I love to see young students when they open their eyes and that moment that they understand what's going on, what I'm talking about, or what I'm explaining. That excites me because I'm transferring knowledge, to them. So, when I'm long gone, they'll keep going on, and hopefully they will do the same, and that's what we need. We need to be able to transfer that knowledge, and that's what excites me. I get to school and I get to meet new faces every day, or I get to see new faces on the computer, and the material. Every time I'm improving the material depending on the feedback from the students. So I get excited, about that, and teaching for me is exciting because they're learning something that they're going to carry on for years now, and then train, maybe teach somebody else to do. So thank you.
Yeah, I think George hit it on the nail on the head. Being mentors to these young students and seeing them develop. What more can you ask for as a educator? Just to see them blossom from just coming off the street to all of a sudden they feel they're needed, they're wanted out there, and that they have the abilities to succeed. And you're giving them all kinds of tools and advice and support, and they're thriving. And it's great to see this. And that's what, motivated me to give back to the community. I retired technically 5 years ago, but here I am. I'm driving a force here, and I'm living a dream, and I'm enjoying giving back and watching these students prosper, and they challenge me. So I got to stay on my game. I got to be, keep up with technology and with all the things that George mentioned for his, the technology that's out there, and staying in tune. I go to all the conventions and West Tech shows to stay current with all the high-end stuff, and what's good, and what's resourceful, and what can I share with my students. These are all little things that drive me to, be the best, and to share with my students, and carry that torch, and hopefully they'll keep that torch going for Glendale College. That's where it keeps me alive. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. For our final question of the night, looking back at your educational career, is there anything you would have changed? And do you have any final tips and advice for our students?
Okay, I'll start. I didn't, the only thing that I never regret, and I'm very thankful. There was a time back in, oh my gosh, when I just had my first child. And I was the lone man on the totem pole in the Honeywell. I was the young kid. And so I said, there could be layoffs here. So I diversified myself, and I got my contractor's license, so I could go out and do my own work if push comes to shove. So what I can share is that, knowledge and skill sets, and to always never, keep from growing. Always keep your goals up high, and try to do your best to your family and friends, and also to yourself and family. And, you want to feed your kids, and, to go through that time. And I thank goodness, because I was a very good worker. I showed up, I gave them 110%. I never got laid off, but I didn't know that at the time. But I also feel really blessed that I wouldn't have gone out and got my contractor's license if I didn't get pushed. So I'm just saying, it's a great asset to my background to share with my students, because I'm able to go and bid jobs, and to understand how to manage myself in a professional manner out there doing bids, and how to professionally do that, and understand that you're it's a whole different set of skill sets, and to have soft skills when you're introducing yourself and putting yourself in these environment, that you want to make sure that you are well versed and that you have your ducks in a row and you're prepared. So these are some of the things that I teach my students. Whether they listen, it's another thing, but I try to share my whole worldly experience with them so that they're successful out there. Thank you.
So I'm going to start with a little bit of philosophy here, and going to say that everything happens for a reason. And so sometimes you might not know at the time what that reason is, but eventually you'll get there. So with me, working with my dad for 25 years was a great experience. I wish I would have finished my college sooner. That way I had a little bit more opportunities to do other things. I was approached by during high school by Lockheed Robotics Department, and they wanted to send me off to school to learn robotics and what have you. But I felt an obligation to family first, but sometimes there's an opportunity to do both. So you have to kind of look at what's coming at you and make adjustments to it. But in the long run, I don't think I would change much. I mean, it turned out really well. I'm at a point right now where I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and although the path was a little bit longer, we got to the right point here. So.
I want to echo the wisdom of both the presenters. Growing up around these fields in the 70s, I know it's a long time ago. You can read about this from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And my dad was involved in the unions, and my uncles. Like, it's skill development. They could see technology changing down the road, and you have to keep enhancing those skills. It's building upon that, because you generally you can see things going a certain way, and you have to keep developing that for you. And in the short term, I would also use our career center, because you have to enhance your resume, your interviewing skills, being confident how you present those skills in the workplace. So use our resources on campus, have mock interviews, because all those things are going to carry with you throughout your life. Interviews, promotions, public speaking. Take a speech 101 class on our campus. Be confident with that, because my dad was in the union and he was very nervous presenting, but he had all the skills and talents, but public speaking wasn't his thing. So this is a time to develop these things. So you're going to need them no matter what you do in your career. So keep pushing yourself. Sometimes you'll be a little uncomfortable when you push these skill sets, but this is a chance at Glendale College to push these areas for enhancement. It's going to help your career. It's going to help you advancement, and also your cause on whatever workplace that you work that you're at.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight. I love the phrase, put GCC on the map, and we're so lucky that your programs are doing that for our college. Believe me, I love this school, and we're so lucky to have you here. But I'm sure you already know that. Thank you, everybody. That is all the time that we have for today. If you have any questions that we didn't answer during this workshop session, please email me at asvpad@glendale.edu, and we will try to get your questions answered. If you have not filled out the survey that I just put in the chat, please do so when you leave. We would love to hear your feedback. We also have more workshops next week, so if you're curious to know about our other learning and professional pathways, we encourage you all to join us at those. So please visit associatedstudentsgcc.com or at ASGCC on Instagram for more information. I wish everybody have a healthy and safe holiday season, and good luck on finals and everything that is, coming up for school. So thank you again for being here. Have a great night.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. And one last question. If I were to direct our students to see the recording, how would I have them navigate to that?
It will be on the ASGCC YouTube, so I will send you the links for those.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Because I know I always want to share some great things that George is doing in machining. And, you know, it's one thing for me to say it, but to have, you know, George, you know, tell it like he is through his words of wisdom, you know, I think it's beneficial for both our departments to, you know, help each other out here. And I think it's good for everybody. Thank you for your time.